The moment I told my husband I'd been fired, he didn't even blink. No concern, no surprise, just pure, seething anger. "Of course, you got fired," he snapped, slamming his laptop shut. "You've always acted like you're better than everyone. Maybe now you'll finally learn something." I stood there frozen, still in my work clothes, clutching the straps of my purse like they were the only thing holding me up. I had imagined this moment so many times, Sim pulling me close, saying we'd figure it out together. But this wasn't that moment, and he wasn't that man. The truth? I hadn't been fired at all. I'd been promoted. Unexpectedly, joyfully, after years of quiet, thankless work. But as I walked home that evening, I kept thinking about how distant Noah had become. A hesitation crept in. What if he didn't take it well? What if he resented me for earning more than him? He was raised in a home where the man was the provider. The foundation, as his mother used to say. I'd heard it 1,000 times, her voice echoing like an outdated sermon. Still, I didn't expect him to explode like that. The way he looked at me like I was dead weight he hadn't realized he was carrying. "Do you even understand the position you've put me in?" he shouted, pacing the room. "How do you think we're going to pay the bills now?" Not once did he ask how I felt. Not once did he wonder what had actually happened. I said nothing, not because I didn't want to defend myself, but because I physically couldn't. My throat tightened, my body instinctively silencing me. And maybe that was a good thing. Because if I had told him the truth, that I'd been promoted, that I was finally earning more than ever, I might have missed what came next. The cracks beneath the surface that were finally starting to show, he raged on, calling me useless, claiming I'd never contributed anything real, that all I did was shuffle papers while he built things that actually mattered. I don't remember much of the rest. I just remember standing under the shower, letting scalding water burn my skin, as if it could wash away the humiliation, the fear, the confusion. That night, he slept on the couch. No words, no explanation. And I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning. The signs had been there all along, signs I'd ignored for too long. The late nights, the way he guarded his phone. How he stopped meeting my eyes when we spoke. And now this, his lack of empathy, his coldness. This wasn't just about my lie anymore. Something darker was happening, and deep inside me, something was shifting to the instinct to survive. The need to uncover the truth before it destroyed me. Looking back, I realized the signs weren't blaring red flags at first, just small cracks. He started coming home later with vague excuses. His phone, once left casually on the counter, was now always face down, locked tight. He began skipping our Saturday breakfasts, something we'd done for years, brushing it off with a careless, maybe next time. I told myself it was stress. His construction firm had taken on a massive project downtown. I wanted to believe that, because the alternative, the thought that the man I'd shared a bed with for 10 years was slipping away, was too painful to face. But the memory that haunts me the most happened 2 months before I finally tested him. It was a Friday. I'd gotten off work early after my team finished a launch ahead of schedule. I thought I'd surprise Noah cook his favorite dinner, open a bottle of wine, try to bring back a piece of us I'd been missing. I slipped into the house quietly, expecting to find him working. But as soon as I opened the door, I heard his voice from down the hallway. He was on the phone, speaking in a tone I barely recognized, clipped, rehearsed, almost cold. "No, doesn't suspect anything yet," he said. After a pause, he added, "We just need a little more time." And then he laughed. Not the warm, playful laugh I used to love, but something sharp, detached, cruel. I froze in the hallway, gripping the doorframe, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. He was talking about me. I knew it. A moment later, he walked out of the bedroom, saw me, and smiled. Kissed me on the cheek like it was any ordinary day. I smiled back, went into the kitchen, started boiling pasta, but something in me cracked. That night, a fracture no one could see, but one that spread quickly beneath the surface. From that day on, I started watching him differently, listening carefully, catching the small lies, the subtle shifts, the impatience when I asked simple questions. I wasn't paranoid, my gut was screaming, and I was finally listening. It felt like mourning something that was already dead, while still pretending it was alive. I told myself to wait, to collect more signs, to be sure. Until that moment, after my fake firing, when the last illusion shattered and I realized something bigger was unfolding. Something I couldn't even imagine yet. And once I discovered the truth, there would be no going back. It was around 2 p.m. when I heard the front door open. I had stayed home from work that day, claiming to feel unwell. But the truth was simpler. I just needed space to think. Noah still believed I was unemployed, broken, vulnerable, too afraid to face the world. He didn't know I was still working. He didn't know I had just been promoted. He didn't know I had been quietly, carefully, putting myself back together. I froze when I heard not one voice, but two enter the house. The second wasn't a coworker or a friend. It was Eliana, my mother-in-law. I stepped silently into the hallway, standing just beyond the crack of the guest room door. I knew I shouldn't listen, but something about the way they spoke, so calm, so casual. In the middle of a week, they made my skin crawl. Eliana's voice cut sharp. "Why the sudden midday visit? Everything all right?" "It's all going exactly as planned," Noah replied, almost sounding pleased. "She told me she got fired yesterday. Completely devastated. Just like you predicted." I pressed a hand over my mouth, forcing myself not to gasp. Finally, Eliana sighed with satisfaction. She won't have any choice now. She have to agree to our terms. My knees weakened. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear what came next. "She's completely dependent on me now," Noah continued. "Selling the house is only a matter of time." Eliana gave a smug little laugh. "See? I told you that girl was never right for you. Too ambitious, too independent. Do you really think she'd still be here if it weren't for your father's house?" It felt like being punched in the chest. That house had been our home for 10 years. I'd poured my time, my money, my love into it. And now they were planning to sell it like I was just some tenant they had finally tricked into leaving. "Don't start." "Mom," Noah muttered with a sigh. "And what about Emma?" Eliana pressed. "When are you going to tell her it's time?" The name hit me like ice water. Emma Jennings, Mark's girlfriend before the accident, Noah's older brother who died in a crash 3 years ago. Emma had vanished after the funeral. I had no idea Noah had stayed in touch. "She's ready," Noah said, voice softening. "The baby's doing great. Emma says he's growing fast. Already looks just like Mark." My stomach twisted. "I'll adopt him as soon as the divorce goes through," Noah continued, "like it was a business transaction. He'll be my son, our son." I couldn't breathe. Eliana purred. "Just think how happy Emma will be when she hears the house is being sold. She's waited so long for this." My ears rang. My vision blurred. This wasn't just betrayal. This was replacement. They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to erase me. And the worst part? I had no idea how long it had been going on. No clue how many smiles, how many kisses had been lies rehearsed, calculated. My husband wasn't just cheating. He was plotting. "I always knew Emma was the one for you," Eliana said, her voice syrupy sweet. "You two are perfect together. It's just a shame you met her too. Light of your wife. That one? Not Lily. Not your wife. Just that one. A placeholder. An obstacle." I bit my knuckle to stop myself from making a sound. My entire body shook, but I couldn't stop listening. I had to hear everything. "Let's not get carried away," Noah muttered. "We still have to make sure Lily doesn't fight us on the divorce." "She won't," Eliana replied with confidence. "Not if you handle it right. Remind her she has nowhere to go. No job, no savings. She'll fold." I clenched my fists, every nerve in my body burning. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was trapped. But I wasn't. Not yet. Not completely. And if she doesn't fold? Eliana asked, what if she gets a lawyer? Noah's voice dropped low. Calm to calm. Then we hit her with the infidelity angle. I almost stumbled back. Infidelity. Infidelity, Eliana echoed. Doesn't matter, Noah said smoothly. I've got a few old photos from that conference she went to 2 years ago. It's just her with colleagues, but framed the right way. They'll raise doubt. You're a clever boy, Eliana purred. It's just like your father. But Noah wasn't finished. If that doesn't work, we accuse her of leaking documents. She worked with client files. She brought things home. I'll say I caught her trying to sell data to competitors. My knees gave out. I slid to the floor, hands ice cold. My husband, the same man who once held my hair back when I was sick. The man who painted our bedroom walls after I chose the color was secretly planning to destroy me from the inside out. He was ready too. Lie in court to accuse me of things I never did, just to push me aside for Emma. And a baby that wasn't even his. Emma, the quiet, soft-spoken woman I only remembered in fragments from Mark's memorial. She had seemed gentle, almost fragile. I never imagined she'd return to our lives like this, not as my replacement. Not as the supposed mother of a child my husband planned to claim as his own. How's the baby? Noah asked, his voice suddenly lighter, almost cheerful, strong. Eliana answered with pride. Emma says he's growing fast. Looks just like Mark. Same eyes, same laugh. You'll see soon enough. The room spun around me. They weren't just plotting. They were building a new family. Noah, Emma, the baby. And of course, Eliana always Eliana. A perfect little unit. And in their minds, I was already erased. Just paperwork. Just one final conversation away. I'll tell her tonight, Noah. Said she's already fragile after losing her job. It's the perfect time. I'll act sympathetic. Say it's better for both of us. Offer her some cash to walk away. Eliana laughed coldly. Push the pity. Make her feel like dead weight. She fold. Women like her always do. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood. But even through the pain, I almost smiled. Because they didn't know the truth. I hadn't been fired, I'd been promoted. Their perfect plan was already unraveling. I stayed hidden long after their voices faded. Even when I heard the couch creak, even when the front door shut behind Eliana, I didn't move. I just sat there, hugging my knees, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it would give me away. My body was frozen, but my mind was burning. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. And I had stumbled right into the middle of it, unarmed, unprepared. But I wasn't going to be their casualty. Not quietly. Not ever. That night I didn't speak to Noah. He acted like nothing had happened. He poured himself a drink, watched. The game glanced at me with that neutral expression that now seemed grotesque. I didn't meet his eyes. Couldn't. If I did, I might shatter the illusion. I needed that illusion a little longer in bed. I lay stiff, eyes open, back turned. To him, he fell asleep quickly, like always, as if he hadn't spent the day plotting to erase me. I listened to his breathing and began to plan. The next morning, I left before sunrise. Not for work, not yet. Instead, I went to the storage closet where we kept years of old documents, contracts, tax papers, receipts. I pulled everything I could find, proof that I had invested in that house, that I had built it alongside him with my own money and effort. The water heater, my bonus paid for it. The custom kitchen cabinets, my design, my deposit. I dug out bank statements, invoices, receipts, packed them into a box, then a bag. And I drove across town to the only person I trusted, Emily. Barnes wasn't just a colleague, she was my friend. For years, we'd survived late nights at the office together. She knew my coffee order, my birthday, even the name of the stray cat I once tried and failed to adopt. Most importantly, she had never betrayed me, not once, not even with gossip. That made her invaluable now. When she opened the door, she didn't ask questions. She just looked at me, then stepped aside. "I need a favor," I whispered. "Say no more," she said. In her kitchen, I spread the documents across the table. "If anything happens, if I disappear, if I stop answering calls, give this to my lawyer." She raised an eyebrow, but stayed silent. "I'm not paranoid," I added quickly, seeing the concern in her eyes. "But I can't take any risks." Emily nodded slowly. "You're scaring me a little, but okay. Whatever you need," I finally exhaled. The tightness in my chest eased just enough. I hadn't told her everything, not about Emma, not about the baby, but she understood enough that something was wrong. That I needed her. And for now, that was enough. Driving back, I passed the park where Noah and I used to walk on Sundays. I remembered how he'd once held my hand, how he used to look at me like I was his entire world. But that man was gone, dead. The one waiting at home now was a stranger in his skin. And that stranger was preparing to sit me down, look me in the eye, and ask me to disappear. He had no idea I was already planning how to make sure it would be him who lost everything. That evening, as I stepped inside, I knew what was coming. The conversation, the performance. He had rehearsed Etty, could see it in the false concern on his face, the exaggerated heaviness in his shoulders. Noah Carter was about to play the good guy in his own betrayal. "Hey," he said softly, "we should talk." I forced a weary smile. Just enough to look beaten down. Just enough to keep him confident. "Sure," I said, dropping my bag. "What's going on?" He gestured to the living room, already staged like a scene in a play. The lights dimmed. 2 glasses of wine waiting. A blanket draped casually over the armrest, as if this were going to be some gentle mutual discussion, as if he were doing me a favor by tearing my life apart slowly. I sat. He took the armchair. Across from me, fingers laced together, exhaling with such fake drama, I almost laughed. "Lily," he began, "I've been thinking a lot lately about us, about where we are. And I think we've grown apart." I kept my eyes on the wine glass, nodding slightly. "I don't want this to get ugly," he went on, leaning forward. "I don't want lawyers or courtrooms. I just think it's time we admit this marriage isn't working anymore." He sounded heartbroken, like he was the victim, as if the decision itself was tearing him apart. "With you being out of work now," he said softly, "maybe this is the right time for a fresh start for both of us." My stomach twisted. I let my bottom lip tremble just enough to look fragile. "Are you saying divorce?" He nodded, lifting his wineglass as if he deserved a reward. "Yeah, but amicable, civil. I don't want to fight. I'll help you get back on your feet. You'll need a place to stay and some money to get started." I tilted my head, playing the part. "Of someone broken? You'd do that for me?" "Of course," he said, pressing a hand to his chest like some kind of savior. "I care about you, Lily. I just don't think we're right for each other anymore. We've both changed." He paused, then added, "And the house sits legally. Mine, it was left to me by my father, but I want to be fair. I'll give you a settlement, enough for a few months' rent." I drew in a shaky breath. "How much?" He named a number. It was insulting, a fraction of what I'd poured into that house. But I didn't laugh, didn't even flinch. I just stared at him like I was seeing him for the first time. "Thought we'd try harder," I whispered. "I thought we were stronger than this." Noah reached out, touched my hand like a man performing a role he no longer believed in. "I'm sorry, but this is the best path forward, I promise." And in that moment, I gave him what he wanted. I nodded slowly, eyes wet, lips pressed tight. In defeat. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll think about it." He exhaled, visibly relieved. But behind my silence, behind the trembling breath and misted lashes, I was already building my case. He didn't want lawyers, but I was going. To bring in the best one in town. The next morning, I left before Noah stirred. He was still snoring on the couch, wrapped in a blanket like a child hiding from consequences. I didn't leave a note. No explanation, no polite goodbye, just silence. Let 'em wonder. Downtown Portland was just waking up when I stepped in too. The old brick building where Luna Bell's office sat tucked between a florist and a tax accountant. The hallway smelled faintly of lavender and ink. I waited 10 minutes. That felt like an eternity, rehearsing every word. When Luna finally opened the door and called my name, I stood, walked in, and told her everything. Not all of it I left. Out Emma, the baby, the betrayal that burned too deep to voice, but enough. Enough for her to see the shape of the battlefield, the inherited house, the years of shared expenses, the receipts and statements. The divorce he wanted, fast and quiet, with a payout that was laughable. Luna listened without judgment. Her pen moved steadily across a yellow legal pad, sharp and precise. "You've been married 10 years?" she asked. 12, I corrected. 10 legally, 2 before that? She nodded. "Any children?" "No. Proof of contributions. To the home, I have receipts, invoices, bank statements. Everything. Furniture, renovations, fixtures." She leaned back, folded her hands. "Lily, you have a strong case. But I need you to understand, if we go forward, there's no turning back. It won't be pretty. He will fight dirty." I held her gaze. "He already is." Her expression stayed calm, but something in her eyes shifted. Respect, maybe recognition. "Then let's get to work." When I stepped back outside, the air felt different, cooler, lighter. I still had a mountain to climb, but for the first time in days, the weight on my chest eased. I wasn't lost anymore. I had someone in my corner. I went straight to the office. No more hiding. I walked through the doors with my head high, greeted my team, and sat down at my desk like nothing had happened. Noah thought I was unemployed, powerless. But I was back fully. Around lunch, my phone buzzed. A text from him. "Hope your interviews went well. Let me know when you're ready to talk about next steps." Next steps. I almost laughed. He had no idea I'd already taken them. I replied with 2 simple words: "Will do." That afternoon, met with my team, reviewed goals, scheduled one-on-ones, and signed off on a client project. Focused, efficient, unshakable. And when I finally stepped out into the sunset, I knew something had changed inside me. I wasn't the woman who once cried in the hallway, trembling while her husband planned her erasure. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, sharper. Ready, he wanted me to disappear quietly. But now I was preparing to take everything back on my terms when I got home. Noah was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, leaning against the counter, trying to look composed. But the twitch in his jaw gave him away. "He was nervous, hey?" he said casually, like we were roommates talking groceries. "Got a minute?" I hung my coat, then turned to face him. "Sure," he nodded toward the living room. We sat across from each other again. The same setup. Couch, the wine, the staged seriousness. He hadn't even changed the scene. He thought the first act had convinced me that I'd quietly accepted his script. "I've been thinking," he began. "I want to wrap this up soon. The divorce. The paperwork, everything settled so we can both move on." I nodded, keeping my expression soft. "'Kay." He blinked, uncertain. "So you agree?" "Not fighting the divorce," I said gently. "But I do want to make sure it's fair. That's why I spoke with someone." His face froze. "Someone, a lawyer." His eyes narrowed. "Why would you need a lawyer?" "I'm offering a generous settlement. We can handle this ourselves." I tilted my head. "You said the house was legally yours, right?" "It is," he snapped quickly. "But we've both lived there for over a decade. I've invested money. I have receipts. I just want to make sure it's fair." He laughed, sharp and defensive. "Lily, come on. You're blowing this out of proportion. You lived here. That's not the same as owning it." "I paid for the kitchen remodel," I reminded him softly. "The bathroom tiles, the appliances, all from my accounts. I just want that acknowledged." Noah stood and began pacing. I don't want this to get ugly. Then don't insult me with a number that barely covers 3 months of rent. He spun toward me, and for the first time, the mask slipped. I saw a Tangar panic, desperation. You're being unreasonable. No, I said calmly. I'm being smart. You taught me that, remember? Plan ahead. Protect your assets. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting. Really want to do this? Bring lawyers into it. You think that's wise? Think it's necessary, I replied. You said you wanted fairness. This is how fairness works. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at me, recalculating, reframing me in his mind. I wasn't the fragile wife he thought he'd broken. I was something else now. A problem. So, what are you going to ask for? He muttered. Half the house. I don't want. Half, I said. Just what I put in. And maybe a little more for the years you wasted lying to me. His jaw tightened. He didn't deny it. And in that silence, I knew he was finally afraid. He thought I would break. He never expected me to sharpen. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Not quietly, not quickly. Noah dragged his feet once he realized I wasn't going to play. Dead. His lawyer, probably the smug friend he bragged about to his mother, tried every trick in the book. But Luna, my lawyer, was sharper. Ruthless when she needed to be. She had a copy of every receipt, every transfer, every signature I'd ever made on that house. We didn't go after more than what was fair. But we made sure Noah couldn't keep what wasn't his. In the end, I walked away with a solid settlement and legal recognition of my contributions, not just financially, but as a partner who had invested years of her life into a shared home. A life he chose to burn down. The last time I saw him, we were signing papers in a sterile downtown conference room. Emma wasn't there, but I could feel her ghost hovering behind him, quiet and waiting for me to vanish. Noah never once met my eyes. When it was done, I stood, tucked the pen into my bag, and said, "You always underestimated me." He didn't reply. He didn't have to. I saw it on his face. Regret or maybe disbelief that the story he had written for me didn't end the way he planned. I moved into a small apartment overlooking the river. Not fancy, not big, but it was mine. It's the first night I slept there. I kept every light on. Not out of fear, but because I could. No one to call me dramatic. No one to call me a burden. Silence. Earned peace. Word spread that Emma and Noah were struggling. Apparently, things weren't as idyllic as they imagined. Raising a child wasn't as simple as smiling for photos and pretending love could be transplanted. Eliana tried to help. Of course, she always did, meddling in everyone else's life. But I heard through Emily that tension was building. Money was tight. Emma hadn't fit in the way Eliana hoped. None of it surprised me. Their life was built on lies, and lies don't last. I don't waste my days checking in on them. I don't stalk social media or linger in bitterness. I've rebuilt from the ground up. Slowly, deliberately, my job is steady. It's my name respected. Some nights I eat alone, but I've learned solitude isn't the same as loneliness. Sometimes. It's healing. I've taken up boxing classes on Saturdays. I've gone back to reading poetry. I call my sister more often. I've even started writing again, something I hadn't done since college. Pieces of me I thought were gone were only buried, hidden under years of making myself small for someone else's ego. Now I take up all the space I need. If I've learned one thing, it's this. Being underestimated is the most dangerous gift life can hand you. Because when you rise, when you fight back, no one sees it coming. Noah thought I would crumble. Instead, I became unshakable.